to be honest.
We just got back of heads as well.
Alive. Well, that'll do, won't it?
Hold on, we can put this under it, make it higher.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I've got my toolbox.
Okay, guys, anybody got an idea? Got an idea how to turn the telephone off but keep the Wi-Fi going?
Yeah, if you go on airplane mode, you can turn Wi-Fi back on.
Yes, so onto airplane. All right, okay, so that's cool. So it's just picking the Wi-Fi. Where do you want me to use this?
Wherever, maybe on the table here.
Right, just to lift that up, mate.
In the other way.
Right, just to lift my laptop.
So it's sort of from the back of the room.
No, I just, well, it will be,
Jesus. Is that up and running?
should be, yeah. Yeah, that should be good.
Be a piss sign.
Yeah. I did fall off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening.
We looked at it yesterday, and it's up by about £2, $2 per head per week. Oh, yeah. The history.
Hello, mate.
Hello.
It doesn't have long.
Good. Yeah, good.
Do you run?
Yeah.
You know the Wi-Fi TV?
No, yeah.
I just need to check it out a minute.
Is it?
Yeah, mine not. Hello. How you going? So the Apple TV needs to answer the Wi-Fi.
What does it mean?
Okay, so it's on Apple TV at the moment, yeah?
Yeah, I just joined online.
Right, okay, that'll have to do. No, but yeah, I know it invites the people that were on the. If you do it from the event page, it should invite the people from the thing. Right, I need you to do me a favour, mate. I need you to Swap these blocks over. That one. Keep an eye on the power and actually put them actually the power over because we're not fully charged.
Which one am I swapping?
Not right now.
Oh, Jira.
What's going on? God, what's going on?
What's the help? That's because you're on 2 up. If you click on the right one,
Oh, not that one.
Yeah. Because I didn't really teach many. I did try
Is there any
That's a drawstring, that one is. That's right. Then HDMI 1. Expecting to be that one. There isn't another HDMI back there, is there?
is that the one from the telly that I used earlier?
No. Is there another one back there coming out of here?
Well, no.
No, just the one. Yeah, it's the VGA and HDMI ports. There's only one USB. There's only one HDMI out.
No.
So where
That's it there. Look.
there's a patch bay here.
Yeah, what's the patch code? It's the same as patch bay.
Yeah, I'm not picking anything up.
Right, we might have to go. Might have to record this and go on HDMI 2. It's on HDMI 2, no signal. Hang on. Let's just see if that picks
HDMI 1 in it.
HDMI 1 is the
Yeah, I
Apple
should have said
TV.
this is-
Oh, you don't do it. I was actually, no.
It's just the
Can I see go from there?
Do you want to go up mine and just go to that TV? Move them around a little bit What is your power?
Well, I was, then they were.
Big power.
Is all of this necessary? What's that?
That's on the TV.
You have to be in smart.
But there's no.
That's what we see in the world.
Only starts to build up financially.
That doesn't matter.
Right, Ollie, yeah.
You see the kid once off.
That's not doing anything, is it? This thing here. What's that one there? Yeah, Osama. Let's see where that goes.
One of them's going to be Apple TV.
Yeah, I'm just going to unplug this VCR on the top. It goes under there somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's plugged in.
All right, take that one out then.
Okay. To all of those who are wondering why we haven't got a decent tech. Hi. Basically, we wanted to get in here an hour earlier, but we couldn't because apparently we could, but there was someone else. we've just had to do all the technical stuff now. And those for the live stream back there, I don't know if you can see me. Hi, yeah, in front of the screen. That's the reason why, Ollie. Thanks for the support. Okay, so
If you come that way, you'll be in the light of it. Can't see
but
it.
then I can't.
Yes.
Okay, so this is all the formatting's gone because we've had to change formats and everything. Please forgive me. That says Bitcoin or blockchain. I'm pretty sure you know because you've seen this already. So basically, I decided to put this together because it's a little bit of a. It's not a very clear space. People don't really know what it is, what's going on. I'm assuming that everyone's heard of Bitcoin, okay? So who here considers himself a free thinker? This is just something I've cobbled together quickly, get some kind of ideas coming out of it. Because when it comes to Bitcoin and understanding what the blockchain is, because they are separate things, although within Bitcoin, they are melded and they become the one thing. It's very, forgive me, just go with me, keep going with the presentation. But so the idea is here is who considers himself a free thinker and what do you consider to be free thought? It's a good one, isn't it? So I'm sure there's free thinkers in this room. So who's a free thinker? Hands up. Okay, I knew that. Okay. And you know the point here is that free thought is particular to your own point of attraction, where you come from in life, what you decide. You know, someone who's had socialism their whole life, I think that capitalist conservative is free thinking. Socialism, so that's just a quick idea. Do you consider yourself a free thinker? Okay. So the other thing is the future is happening whether we like it or not. Artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, robots, cybernetics, all sorts of other things are happening at the moment. Big things are happening. The internet's happened, and that's changed everything really quickly. So many little corners of the world going on, and so many different echo chambers. Facebook, for example, it's a bit of an echo chamber. You just got the opinions of the people that you like in there. But to get out of that, see other parts of the internet, there's places where you can find out information you really want to know. Okay, so the future's happening, whether we like it or not. I'm assuming people know that artificial intelligence is pretty much something that is happening. It's going to start taking over our lives. No?
Yeah. What's
Yeah,
going on already?
You've heard it's all going on already. Autonomous vehicles. Anyone heard of autonomous vehicles? Know what they are?
Yeah, one crashed, didn't it? Hilton.
Okay. But do so. Yeah. So that's autonomous vehicles out of the picture. But everyone knows what an autonomous vehicle is, right? It's a vehicle that drives itself. Okay. So run by eventually AI. So artificial intelligence could be run now. Robots, cybernetics. Anyone seen the recent development of a robot that was made a citizen in Saudi Arabia? Yeah. Yeah, there's a robot now that's an actual citizen of the country, and it's run by artificial intelligence. It can have a conversation with you. So that's real. It's happening. It's someone's been made. A autonomous entity has been made a citizen of the country. So that's interesting. And cybernetics, having part of your body become a machine. Biology of it. Okay. So the future's happening whether you like it or not. So, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? You want to take the blue pill or the red pill? You all know the Matrix reference. So we can keep having the conversation, or we can just go back to the old ways and say this is all rubbish. We don't want to play this game. The world's terrible. Let's not take the blue pill, go back, it's all fine. Take the red pill, and you go on. So who's heard of Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Everybody? I'm guessing everyone's heard of Bitcoin. Who owns Bitcoin? Anyone have any Bitcoin? Yeah, one. How many? Show of hands. How many people have got Bitcoin? One person's got Bitcoin. Okay. So who knows what Bitcoin really is? So who thinks they know what Bitcoin is? Just a quick shout out from the audience if you think you know what Bitcoin is. Or some kind of idea. What it is to you. What's Bitcoin?
Currency.
It's a currency, okay?
Invisible currency.
An invisible currency, okay? Anyone else?
Decentralized currency.
Decentralized currency. Okay, so we're all on the right track. I mean, at the moment, Bitcoin is a currency, definitely. Just to frame that question a little bit, the name of this talk is Bitcoin on the blockchain. Okay, so there's a reason why it's called Bitcoin on the blockchain. Bitcoin is a currency, it's a store of value at the moment. Let's go on. Is it a coin? Someone said invisible currency. It's probably not a coin. A bit of programming code? Yeah, somewhere around that, yeah. It's actually mined in megabyte blocks, so if you don't understand computers, a bit is a lot of, a megabyte's a lot of bits. Okay, so in a way that is money. Is it money?
And value.
It can be traded for money. Money can be traded for Bitcoin. Bitcoin can be traded for money. Is it currency? That begs the question, what's a currency? An investment could be an investment. You know, some people like to call it digital gold because it's a digital version of gold. In it has a value, and keep that. Although it's fluctuating with the markets all the time, so it's much more volatile than natural gold, but that's what they call it. Is it a get rich quick scheme? Some people have been, yeah. And didn't realise it's been such an organic thing that I think people realised that they were going to get rich on it. Some people accidentally got rich, some people accidentally got poor on it as well. So, is it a gaming token? Is it a gaming token? Yeah. You said yeah? Yeah. That's what I thought. For years, I just thought it was a gaming token. So it sounds like something that collects on a game. Sort of maybe, I think somewhere in my head I thought that you could trade it for a normal currency, and that's why it was a gaming token. And I'm able to get, yeah. So just to fill you in on the problem with all the tech is that, like I said, we wanted to be in there an hour before so we could test everything. And I was assured that the HDMI that goes to the projector. So we're having to use another machine with the same presentation on, which is why it's not quite as smooth. But it's all good. Technical difficulties.
Too much Bitcoin.
It's just weighing it down. clogging up the arteries. Okay, well, we've got a very, very kind friend Tech, my friend, Tech friend of mine here, who's helping out with the presentation. It's actually our bread and butter. This is really poor show for us. We usually should be able to do this a lot quicker than this is happening today. So, okay, brilliant. Thanks, mate. So we've got all that. So, what Bitcoin really is. It is a store of value rather than a currency or money or anything like that. It's better to look at it like that because, well, as we go on.
the distributed ledger. Okay, so it's a way of keeping track of figures, like you'd have a ledger, like you use Excel spreadsheet. Let's call it a glorified Excel spreadsheet for now. Okay, distributed ledger. A mathematical system of trust, so it's using its algorithms so that it can be a trusted format of keeping, storing that value. Game theory, not a Mario game, obviously, but it's a game theory. Have anyone said game theory here? Game theory is an interesting concept. Basically, I'll go on further in this. But game theory, and this is part of the algorithm of Bitcoin. Game theory is a device, a mathematical device. It's embedded in a system that encourages the participant to cooperate with the system rather than to go against or beat the system. Okay, so the energy that you'd expend trying to beat the system is way and above what the energy that you put into it to actually cooperate with the system. And that's, in a nutshell, what game theory is. So if you play by game theory, then everyone's a winner. Okay, so it's a decentralized form of transacting. So we don't go through a bank. We just go from me to you. I sell you my car. I say, right, my car's going to cost this much Bitcoin. You send me that Bitcoin, I give you the car. Okay. Obviously, this is on trust in the society that we have now. I would have thought, hopefully, people could trust each other and this could work nicely. There are going to be people that you can't deal with, but this is where this conversation is going and why I'm doing this presentation, so we can have this conversation. So there is no central authority. And a barter system. It could possibly be a barter system. An interesting thing that happened recently in Malvern, it's happened twice, I think. There was a barter system called, I can't remember what it's called, but these beacons to transact services. So, what do you do again? You build electrician, isn't it? Electrician. So, if you said, right, if I said, oh, can you do an hour's worth of electrical work on my house, and that was worth a beacon, then you could put a beacon into the network of people that were brought into this barter system, and someone else could say, right, well, me giving you so many bags of vegetables would be a beacon, and then you could trade that beacon in, okay? And for the work that you did for someone else, so you didn't have to do it like, it didn't have to be me and you, all right, I'll give you fish, you give me bread. It would be, I give you my services, and then I've got my little token, I can go off, and go, someone else who's got that, who's in that system, and give you my token, you give you your services, right? So, by the same tokens, that's what the barter system is all about when it comes to Bitcoin. So, it's an interesting concept that we had this thing, beacon, I thought, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was a long time ago. So, but it's almost the same kind of thing. Peer-to-peer, not, decentralized, no central authority. So, what's fiat money? Okay, so basically, we're getting into my slides are a little bit chopped up because I'm not quite sure what this other things was. Okay, I was going to go through. So, we're now going to go into the idea of what money really is. Okay? So everyone's heard of fiat money? No, not heard of fiat money. I think it's an acronym. It breaks down somewhere. I was told it was. But it turns out fiat money, has everyone heard of the gold standard when it comes to money? Sort of vaguely. It's interesting that it's vaguely, right? Because this is how money, again, has its value, or did have its value. Was that it's attached to the gold standard. So basically, you'd have so many bars of bullion, you take it to the bank would give you however much money's worth of that bullion, and then that money was attached to the gold, which is what the gold standard was. Now they got rid of the gold standard over some time throughout the last century, and you have Nixon got rid of it completely. And then it became fiat money, which is just basically, okay, So is it buying and selling stocks using small Italian cars? Some vague word that suits use in the Financial Times that only banksters know about. I think pretty much the second one. So basically, fiat money is has been defined variously. Any money declared by a government to be legal tender. Okay. Any money declared. Let's let that sink in just for a minute. Let's read that. Any money declared by a government to be legal tender. State issued money which is neither convertible by law to any other thing nor fixed in value or terms of any objective standard. Intrinsically valueless money. Now this is straight off Wikipedia, by the way. So these have been peer reviewed by everyone who's been on Wikipedia. So it's like intrinsically valueless money. I mean, everyone's just agreeing on it. Think about it, it's quite interesting. Used as money because of government decree. Okay? Intrinsically useless object, blah, 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 blah. The term, this is the interesting bit that I like. The term fiat derives from the Latin fiat, let it be done. Again, let that sink in for a minute. So, quantitative easing. You know what quantitative easing is?
They made loads of money.
They made loads of money,
Printed
yeah.
money.
Printed money, exactly. They printed lots of money to stop this is what they did after the 2008 crash, stock market crash, to put liquidity back into the market. So that have a big, massive inflation. And that's what fiat money allows. It allows the fiat system. So people say there's pros and cons for both, actually. If you really drill into it, which I'm not going to drill into now. One of the things is that fiat money system, one of the good things about it is that you can do what's easy, which means you can just make stuff up and put it in money as well, so it stops the system from completely exploding. The inflation completely explode. So the Latin root, fiat, there, be done, quantitative easing. In other words, may I have a hat? So, how do we value money and how do we quantify value? Gold standard. Back to our confidence. Paper. So that's what your coins are made of. Interesting point is that your small coins cost more to make than they're worth. Fractional reserve banking. Anyone heard of that? That's an interesting thing. Not backed by anything believed will come to them. So that's for me, that's the interesting part, is how do we quantify and value money? It's not backed by anything. It's backed by belief. We believe it's something. We believe it's worth something. Car boot sale looks like a random thing that is. Put it there for a good reason. Because you go to a car boot sale and you go to one person's car, it's useless. There's the next one. You go, oh, that's worth 10 quid. Okay. To someone who's doing the opposite of you, who's looking in the other one and thinks there's a value in that, they'll come to the one that thinks £10, they're worth £10, and they'll go, it's got no value to me. So value is, it's basically subjective, isn't it? In a lot of ways. So, who's heard of the blockchain? Yeah. Okay, what does the blockchain mean to people? We've gone over it a little bit.
Transactions then. It is new transactions.
It's okay. Well, what is the blockchain? The blockchain is a distributed ledger. So we've done that already. We've got a system of recording value. Like we were saying, the Excel spreadsheet. The blockchain is that.
So do you then literally look at it and see what other people have got?
If you're a miner, yes, up to a point. It's a bit more complex than that. But the whole point is with it that it's the trust system the accountant likes, and the accountant likes to see a zero at the end of it. And whatever's left over, so that everything matches up. Whatever's left over is your profit or your loss. Okay? The two entry ledger systems, non-entity system requires third-party verification and is vulnerable to corruption. Financial engineering is looking for loopholes in the law. So basically, you can use this system, and you can find loopholes so that you can don't pay so much tax. That's usually the way because of tax. Okay. That's usually what an accountant is up to. So what's the central authority? Parents, former teacher, that goes through our life. Headmaster, local MP, Prime Minister, government, trusted authority, accountant, bank, building society, trader. Now the point is here, is the reason I'm putting this, what is central authority? Is that the central authority is the trusted party that can actually rip things off with the two entry ledger system that are made of. And this guy literally made off with a lot of money because he was trusted by everyone, and the way that he kept himself trusted was, look into the story, it's quite incredible. It's just basically people didn't verify him more than once or twice. If they had, they would have found that he wasn't. He was president of NASDAQ or something like that. And he said he was. He managed to get away with millions and millions of pounds. Really interesting. Anyway, so what is fractional reserve banking? I'm hoping this is going to actually work with the sound. May or may not. We'll see. Huh? That's not going to work, is it? Oh, yeah.
The Federal Reserve produced a document entitled Modern Money Mechanics. This publication detailed the institutionalized practice of money creation as utilized by the Federal Reserve and the web of global commercial banks it supports. On the opening page, the document states its objective. The purpose of this booklet is to describe the basic process of money creation in a fractional reserve banking system. It then proceeds to describe this fractional reserve process through various banking terminology, a translation of which goes something like this. The United States government decides it needs some money, so it calls up the Federal Reserve and requests, say, $10 billion. The Fed replies saying, sure, we'll buy $10 billion in government bonds from you. So the government takes some pieces of paper, paints some official-looking designs on them, and calls them treasury bonds. Then it puts a value on these bonds to the sum of $10 billion and sends them over to the Fed. In turn, the people at the Fed draw a bunch of impressive pieces of paper themselves, only this time calling them Federal Reserve notes, also designated of $10 billion to the Fed. The Fed then takes these notes and trades them for the bonds. Once this exchange is complete, the government then takes the $10 billion in Federal Reserve notes and deposits it into a bank account. And upon this deposit, paper notes officially become legal tender money, adding $10 billion to the U.S. money supply. And there it is. $10 billion in new money has been created. Of course, this example is a generalization, for, in reality, this transaction would occur electronically, with no paper used at all. In fact, only 3% of the U.S. money supply exists in physical currency. The other 97% essentially exists in computers alone. Now, government bonds are, by design, instruments of debt. And when the Fed purchases these bonds, with money essentially created out of thin air, the government is actually promising to pay back that money to the Fed. In other words, the money was created out of debt. This mind-numbing paradox of money or value can be created out of debt or liability will become more clear as we further this exercise. So the exchange has been made, and now $10 billion sits in a commercial bank account. Here's where it gets really interesting. For as based on the fractional reserve practice, that $10 billion deposit instantly becomes part of the bank's reserves. just as all deposits do. And regarding reserve requirements, as stated in modern money mechanics, a bank must maintain legally required reserves equal to a prescribed percentage of its deposits. It then quantifies this by stating, under current regulations, the reserve requirement against most transaction accounts is 10%. This means that with a $10 billion deposit, 10% or $1 billion is held as the required reserve, while the other $9 billion is considered an excessive reserve and can be used as the basis for new loans. Now, it is logical to assume that this $9 billion is literally coming out of the existing $10 billion deposit. However, this is actually not the case. What really happens is that the $9 billion is simply created out of thin air on top of the existing $10 billion deposit. This is how the money supply is expanded. As stated in modern money mechanics, of course they, the banks, do not really pay out loans from the money they receive as deposits. If they did this, no additional money would be created. What they do when they make loans is to accept promissory notes, loan contracts, in exchange for credits, money, to the borrower's transaction accounts. In other words, the $9 billion can be created out of nothing simply because there is a demand for such a loan and that there is a $10 billion deposit to satisfy the reserve requirements. Now, let's assume that somebody walks into this bank and borrows the newly available $9 billion. They will then most likely take that money and deposit it into their own bank account. The process then repeats. For that deposit becomes part of the bank's reserves. 10% is isolated, and in turn 90% of the $9 billion, or $8.1 billion, is now available as newly created money for more loans. And of course, that 8.1 can be loaned out and redeposited, creating an additional 7.2 billion to 6.5 billion to 5.9 billion, etc. This deposit money creation loan cycle can technically go on to infinity. The average mathematical result is that about $90 billion can be created on top of the original 10 billion. In other words, for every deposit that ever occurs in the banking system, about 9 times that amount can be created out of thin air.
Practice, huh? So that's just to put it into perspective. That's what we're all buying into today. We're all buying into that, whether we had the information or we didn't have the information. Tough shit. We're buying into it. Okay, that's where we're at. So I want to frame it with that idea in mind, because in the last 6 months since I've been looking into Bitcoin and blockchain, it's just blown my head off how this could be a new way of transacting with each other and working with each other and actually sharing information with each other. It doesn't always have to be about currency and money. And to be honest with you, knowledge is currency. If you think about it, knowledge is a type of currency. Because if you have more knowledge than the next person, then you can actually survive better than the next person. Okay, so trickle-down theory. This is what we've all been sold by Thatcher and Reagan. You know, so basically, if the rich get rich, then trickle down and get to the workers. I think it's pretty accurate. little image, I think. You know, we're all you. We trickle down the money to these five people who fool you that we think money trickles down and we shoot at you.
We eat for you.
We
We eat for you. Yeah, we eat for you. That's interesting. We work for you. We feed for you. So, pyramidal capitalist system. Indeed, the pyramid of power, or the actual hierarchy of control, that's the hierarchy of control. And this is a centralized society. Okay, so this is a centralized diagram. Very simplified. Forget about the station link down there. It's just basically, you know, you could imagine the centre of it being the government or the king or the bank, whatever you want. That's the centralised thing, and how everyone joins in and buys into it. decentralized diagram. So that's decentralized network when it comes to Bitcoin. That kind of stuff. So what's that looks like? And then you've got distributed, which is when everybody has a little part of the system and is cooperating equally or as equally as they are giving each other, as they are participating within it. So if we participate in it up to 10%, then we get 10% out. 20%, we get 20% out. We don't do anything, we get nothing out. Okay? Distributed network. Okay? So these are the three. Very simplified. There's arguments about whether these are good and real and whether they work. You know, now it's coming up. So centralized. Central banks, the bank of. You put the name in. It's a centralized bank of the country. Governments. In fact, I think Syria doesn't have a bank of. It's interesting. It's 3 or 4 countries that don't have a central bank. I think they're all like you. So then we've got governments, religion, army, centralized. The internet, BitTorrent, file sharing. Everyone's heard of BitTorrent? No. The internet's decentralized because there's no central authority. Bitcoin's got no central authority. Altcoins, which are the other coins in the cryptocurrency world. The good thing about decentralized networks is there's no central point of failure, which means that if part of it fails, everyone else has the information for the rest of the network, which is the internet. Distributed. Now, I'm just going to gloss over this quickly. I'm not going to gloss, it's just wrong phrase. I'm just going to quickly say dApps are decentralized applications, which are decentralized. Another word for decentralized website. So a website, if you think of a website, it is across servers that are across the world in the cloud. Okay, if one of them goes down, then the rest of it's on another server somewhere else. It doesn't go down. Now, decentralized applications like Steam and DLive, these things live on your, part of them live on your computer, on your device, on your phone. So it's a step up from being on the cloud. So how does the blockchain work? It's a pretty simple, quick description. It's a decentralized chain of blocks across a network. Miners mining 1 megabyte blocks to find the nonsense. We're looking for the nonsense, by the way. So throw that in there. I won't put that one in there. Okay, so what stops a miner from writing the block? We touched on this earlier, which is game theory. Okay, it makes it easier for everybody to participate than to go against it. So Adam Smith, father of modern economics, said that in competition, individual ambition serves the common good. So that's what we can solve. We can solve that competition is good and it helps everything in society work. And there's another guy. I just want to, the reason I put this up here, it was a bit rushed, but basically, this is another video of the film The Beautiful Mind, where he explains what game theory is. So it's not playing.
So then we go for our friends. They will argue what's the cultural because nobody likes to be second choice. I don't know. See you move in. That's the only way we all get laid. Adam Smith said, best result comes from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself, right? That's what he said. And complete. Okay. Because the best result will come from everyone in the group doing what's best for himself. group hash. This is some way for you to get the blood on your own. You can go ahead. Go to Zana, John.
Okay, so basically they're all participating for the goal that they want, rather than fighting and trying to be in competition for the one prize, which is the whole paradigm. They're actually trying to do it so that they all participate together to get what they want. And that's basically what game theory is in a nutshell. So it makes more economical sense to cooperate with the group than to try and beat the group. Now, the famous 51% hack when it comes to Bitcoin is that you can beat Bitcoin if you've got enough power. Now, the way that the Bitcoin network works is that every time I'm going to pass you over to my colleague, my esteemed colleague, who knows a lot more about this than I do. But in a quick nutshell, the idea is that you have to have miners mining the blocks to give Bitcoin's value. Okay, they put electricity in, which is what gives it its value, and everyone participates in the network so that they can make the network work. Okay, now there's a famous 51% hack, theoretical. If enough people have enough power, or if one miner, let's say, has enough power, that they can actually mine the blocks faster than everybody else, then they can hack the system and rewrite all of the ledger that's come before it, and it can take over and gain all the Bitcoin. Now, in reality, it's pretty nigh impossible for that to happen because no one can find that kind of power. That's the famous 51% hack. I'm not sure if you're following me here, but basically, with game theory, if everyone's participating, then the system works. If you've got that one rogue that's trying to hack the system, then he can beat the system. The way that this works is that if you've got this one person who thinks he's got enough power to beat the system, tries to gather quickly, I just want to go through this before I pass over. So there was, just to put this into context, the idea of Bitcoin is back in 1993, there was a bunch of retired Sun Microsystem guy and an Intel guy. I don't know if you know those two things. Sun Microsystems were some of the first mass producing computer manufacturers, and Intel, everyone's heard of Intel inside. Yeah? Intel makes processors. So back then, these guys done so well with the computer boom. This is before the dot-com boom. And so, with computers and having computers, that actually they were semi-retired, and they got together with a bunch of their friends, colleagues, and wanted to talk about what the future of programming was, and computing and all that kind of stuff. And they started a monthly meeting so that they could just chat about it. A bit like what I'm trying to propose here with this talk is that we start a conversation about what blockchain technology is. So for them, they were doing this, and one of them, someone called St. Jude, a female hacker called St. Jude, his name is Jude, talking them all through. So one of them created a manifesto. This is 1992, 1993, this manifesto. And so just a little bit here is, therefore, privacy in an open society requires anonymous transaction systems. Until now, cash has been the primary such system. An anonymous transaction system is not a secret transaction system. An anonymous system empowers individuals to reveal their identity when desired and only when desired. This is the essence of privacy. Pretty kosher, I reckon. Privacy in an open society also requires cryptography. Cryptography is the use of numbers and code to keep things private, basically. If I say something, I want it heard only by those for whom I intended it. If the content of my speech is available to the world, I have no privacy. To encrypt it is to indicate the desire for privacy, and to encrypt with weak cryptography is to indicate not too much desire for privacy. Furthermore, to reveal one's identity with assurance when the default is anonymity requires the cryptographic signature. Based on these principles, a number of attempts were made to develop digital currencies, and this is all the way back in 1993. So cypherpunks were also into a bit of anarchism as well. So then we have the birth of Bitcoin in 2008. I think he wrote his white paper, and the first block was mined in 2009, which we're going to talk about. Now, the best way for us to understand what it is now is it's basically a glorified version of BitTorrent. Bitcoin is based on the BitTorrent technology, so if everyone, pretty sure everyone's had a little pop of BitTorrent, like a film. I would actually guarantee that everyone in this room has benefited from BitTorrent, whether they know it or not. Because a mate of theirs will have given them a film that they downloaded somewhere, right? So anyone watched a film, a mate's given them a stick? It's come from BitTorrent, it's come from peer-to-peer file sharing technology. Now that's the basis, that's where it all comes from. Napster. I'm putting Napster down there because that's another precursor to Bitcoin and the blockchain and the actual way of file sharing, being able to peer-to-peer, which is me to you, get information from each other. And interestingly enough, for all the conspiracy theorists out there, one of the original places that all of this came from was from the National Security Agency and some of their dealings and their tinkerings way back then. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave that now and pass over.
5 minute break.
Huh?
We're going to have a bit of a break.
Okay, yeah, sounds good to me. Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, so I know
Really?
That's still stream.
He says leave them on.
No, sorry.
What I want to do is
So much.
yeah, like 2 o'clock
It's good. Well, this is side.
I don't mean in the sense that you're
No.
true anarchy is self-rule. That's what it means. Ruling oneself. And dictator.
it's just going to be
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is this time.
so
It's out there. I found it quite nice. Unless you're doing it. But then you get the same thing. Yeah, I've been looking at that. You get these list of rules. Yeah. You get all these bloody rules. That's why I never joined it. Because I was seriously considering building my own house. I actually bought one. But then people introducing
Kills the battery with the film, doesn't it?
I don't want it written down. I just want people to say.
Can we get some lights on here? It's really kind of made everything look great. And if it's just a one script, so
Yeah.
can you do that?
Well, you want to do something.
Yes.
Normally do it.
So-called.
No, because
Sorry.
Wonder if there's any other lights.
and then I kind of look at that street and there's cars parked on and better, because of that thing like that. So comes back.
It would be nice to be less street next.
We don't see how until we come from the it becomes a good if we've done this concept, we've done it and back to
Go on. Some of our own.
It's odd. No reason. So, you know.
Same one as I've
And then raise it. But eventually these things will happen. Possibly not in my No, you don't say.
yeah, yes, apparently.
No, it makes no sense. I think it's just the way that my son was like that.
They're coming to.
Which seems utterly complex. That's your opinions into that rather than invested there to try but actually,
That's something everyone should have done once in
oh my God, I did
some of the versions, international concentration. Okay, so part two. First of all, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming. The other thing I'd like to say that the song's done massive amounts of heavy lifting, a lot of research, and it really showed. So thanks very much indeed for that. The other thing is, what I'll do is I'll do my little bit, and then I'm really interested to hear what people have got to say. So I want a conversation. So I'll go through what I've got, and then we can have a bit of a chat with the information that I'm going to give you. So what I'm doing is an introduction to cryptocurrency mining and altcoins. I want to introduce you to the concept of mining and why it's important to have at least a basic understanding of how miners create value within the cryptocurrency space. But first, I want to take you back to 1999. I know possibly some people may not have been alive at that particular point in time, but it is an interesting place to actually go back to. Some of this may actually be a little bit technically clunky, but let's give it a go.
Still exists a general state of either denial, complacency, or even apathy about both the reality and the potential effects of Y2K.
By the end of the 90s, many of us were happy slaves to our computers. But our new masters had a trick they'd forgotten to tell us about.
The basic idea on Y2K was that for convenience, all these computer programs when it came to do dates, you only needed 2 numbers. Why use 4 numbers when you only need 2? And then they recognized what date is the computer going to think it is when we get to 2000.
One simple date change for band, one major screw for computers.
At the stroke of midnight, January 1st, 2000, elevators may stop. Heat may vanish. Credit cards and ATMs may cease to function. Airplanes and trains may come to a halt.
People were terrified the world was going to end.
This is not one of the summer movies where you can close your eyes during the scary parts.
With nearly everything in our economy run by computers, the prospect of a digital meltdown is too huge to contemplate.
I was worried because the whole computer game was new to us, and I was a little ignorant.
We didn't know what we didn't know. And many thought what we didn't know was going to hurt us.
I've got a revolver right now, but I want something more.
That was a Dragon's Breath shell. It could shoot a 4,000-degree flame 300 feet. It's also the most popular ammunition among Y2K customers at KGS Guns and Ammo. There was a fear. Everything's in the internet. Everything's in computers. And we're going to lose it all. And Jesus is coming back.
With pre-millennium tensions growing, the president appoints a crisis management expert. Then a Y2K meltdown.
8 to 10% of the population were fairly confident that this was going to be an apocalypse. The president called me one night and said, here's an office and an assistant, and don't let the world stop.
Okay. So at that particular point in time, everybody was panicking. So in amongst all this uncertainty, I can remember listening to a radio broadcast with a nice distracting theme. The person being interviewed was a scientist from NASA. He was running a research project for extraterrestrial intelligence. The project was called SETI. He was recounting the story of how in 1971, NASA had spent $10 billion on radio telescope array, consisting of 1,500 telescopes. Then went on to explain that in 1977, they received a massively powerful signal with all the hallmarks of extraterrestrial intelligence. It so astounded the individual that looked at the printout, he circled it and wrote, "Wow," with an exclamation mark next to it in the margin. For obvious reasons, this came to be known as the WOW signal. The signal is seen by some as the best candidate for a radio signal from an artificial radio source ever discovered. Over the intervening period, more radio telescopes were added to the arrays of the network. So they were now analysing massive amounts of data. The project was so successful and was producing so much data that NASA needed help in analysing and decoding it. So the reason for the interview that I was listening to on the radio was introducing the concept of SETI at home. They said any individual can become involved with the SETI project. So this is going to be a little bit clunky. So this is the SETI at home project. Okay. You can see all the information being sent backwards and forwards, the packets of data that's going out basically to people's screensavers. So by downloading this program attached to it, the program would run in the background with the computer's idle and the screensaver activated. The program would analyse the signals which are sent to it. The signals are sent in small manageable blocks of data from the SETI at home server. The blocks contained a small snapshot of data that needed to be analysed. After the computer had finished working on one snapshot block of data, it sends it back to the server and the process repeats itself. Down here in the bottom corner, that's what the actual screensaver would look like. And so we can see setting up at home uses a network of computers, and these computers are distributed all over the world. They take signals sent to them from the main SETI home server, decode, analyse, and then send them back the completed tasks to the server. All this is done on the server on the computer being activated. From what was being said in the interview, if you look part in the project, if you took part in the project, your computer might be the one to decode the next WOW signal. I have to say, this sounded very interesting at the time. It didn't dawn on me at that moment, but what he was suggesting was really very clever. In short, they wouldn't need to go to Congress or any other government agency in the world to fight for funding. So by utilising other people's resources, they would save millions, and all this would be carried out willingly by all the participants on the network, donated for free. There are a number of projects which are similar to SETI. There's a project called Fold It, which has a game element. So here we go, have a little bit of funkiness again. So this is Fold It. So they're getting all this activity that people are doing, and it's not costing them anything. people are just doing these things because they want to do it. So there's also another website called Kickstarter. And what Kickstarter does, like if you live in the UK, you've seen Dragon's Den. So Kickstarter is a website to raise a certain amount of money. The project will go into production. So they will have the idea that if you supply so many pounds or dollars or whatever, you get part of the object. You could get a t-shirt, or you get some sort of tangible asset for paying for, just being involved in this thing. But you don't get anything which is going to increase in value. You get a decreasing asset. The company could grow to be worth millions, but you don't benefit from it. It always seems to be taking and not necessarily sharing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Some people want to be able to do that. So how does this fit with mining? Well, a miner is a computer, and it requires specific software, and it requires specific hardware. It requires an internet connection. Now, mining provides a service. And for that service, the miners get compensated. The service is the validation of the transactions on the ledger. Now, the ledger has been mentioned earlier on. As the information flows from point to point, this becomes a transaction. These transactions are validated. So wherever they're being sent from, the miner is looking at this information, this code, and verifying that this information has been sent from who it says it's been sent to. And it verifies that it's going to the place that it's supposed to go to. So payment is compensation to compensate the miner. Now, there are a number of different coins. There are bitcoins, and there are altcoins, and they work on different algorithms. So each network has its unique property on how it releases coins into the network. Most depend on the miner completing the required number of contractual calculations. These calculations are laid down one on top of another in turn. It becomes a structure, layer by layer. It contributes to building a block of transactional information within the history on the ledger. So it's almost like the information comes in, and it's like a 3D printer extruding the information layer on layer, backwards and forwards, sending information over there, extruding it, sending information over there, extruding it, building up block on block of transactional information. So Ethereum, which is an altcoin, produces around about 3 ETH every 15 seconds. Bitcoin produces coin every 10 minutes. Between the block times, new coins are being created. Now, there are solo and pool miners. If you're a solo miner, then your mining rig or your mining farm, if you've got huge amounts of ASIC miners or GPU miners, is pumping by itself. It's not using a pool. But if you're not generating massive amounts of hash power, you need to go into a pool. And we talked about the 51% attack. There's one pool at the moment that it's called Supernova, and it's getting towards having 51% but the hash power. And that can be quite dangerous. You know, at the moment we've got GPUs, ASIC miners. Very shortly, we're going to be getting some extremely powerful computing processing power coming in. Quantum computers are going to be coming in, and they are going to wreck the system massively. So it will be almost as though where we are now at the moment, we've got a rickshaw. This stuff that will be coming in later on, these are going to be like hyper space vehicles. They are going to be operating so quickly. So that's something for the future that we need to be aware of. But at the moment, we are where we are. So solar and pool miners that have been able to mint the next block and post the transactions onto the blockchain get rewarded with new currency, which has been created through the payments made for the use of these services provided by the network. You going to say something?
No, I was just going to clarify GPU and ASICs.
Oh, okay.
So we've got, you said 3 different types of machines that can mine the blocks.
Yeah, well, an ASIC miner is an application-specific integrated circuit, and they use huge amounts of power. I mean, like massive amounts of power, and they are really noisy. If you were to have one in your house, it would be like sitting with a jet engine.
And the GPU?
GPU is a graphics card. You know, you've got NVIDIA, amongst other things. You've got Power Color. These are different makes of graphics cards. Certain graphics cards are able to mine 2 coins. It's called dual mining. So you can mine 2 coins at the same time. You can also go in and alter the BIOS within the card so that you can actually get its hashing power right up. A lot of people will just plug their cards in. They'll create a rig, they will plug their cards in, and they won't know how to increase their hashing power.
What's hashing power?
Hashing power is the number of calculations that a GPU or a miner can actually do. Yeah, so when people refer to pointing their hashing power to a pool, then they're saying, I'm putting all the calculations into this particular area. If you have a miner, you can decide which coins that you're going to mine. There's such a thing called what to mine. And you can actually go on there, you can go onto the website, you can put all your information in about your rig, and it will tell you which coins are the most efficient to mine at that particular point in time in your miner. However, so
just wanted to clarify.
GPU, just coming to that bit.
ASICs.
Yeah. So the ASIC miner, you can mine Bitcoin, Dash, Litecoin. ASICs are, as I was saying, they're really expensive to run. You're also competing on an industrial scale because in Russia and in China, they've got massive warehouses full of these things just kicking out all the time. You know, it is absolutely frightening. If you go to one of the biggest warehouses you have ever seen, that is what you're seeing in Russia or in China. So when you hear people going about, oh, they're clamping down on Bitcoin here, and they're clamping down on the ICOs. We can come into the ICOs a little bit later on. And also, something like Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox is an exchange, so you can actually be mining and holding your currencies and whatever off an exchange. If it's on an exchange and the exchange gets hacked, you start hearing, oh my God, and then you see Bitcoin and the altcoins crack. Because people don't understand, it's the exchange that's been hacked. It's not Bitcoin. It's not the blockchain that's been hacked. So panic over. If you only put a certain amount onto an exchange, then you're not going to lose it. You know, you won't lose all your currency. You know, the reason to have it on an exchange is fundamentally to trade it. What I'd like to say is that I am not a financial advisor, so if I say anything that appears to be giving financial advice, I'm not. Okay, I just want to put that in there. I'm not trained in that at all. So don't sue me. So we're going back to the life of an ASIC mining unit is around about 6 to 8 months. After that period of time, it's just not worth powering it. You know, some of these actual units are like £3,000–4,000 a unit. So, you know, on paper it can look actually quite good because they do produce coin, but you know, the attrition rate is quite high. So then we get into GPU mining. Now these are graphics cards, and the majority of computers have got a graphics card. But the miners, they've got extraordinarily powerful graphics cards in, and they hash well. So with a GPU miner, you can be using Ethereum. You can mine Ethereum. You can mine Monero. You can mine huge numbers of altcoins. You know, there are over 1,000. If you actually wanted to drill down in, mine the information, there's a website called CoinGecko. What CoinGecko does is it gives you the coins in ranking order, and it explains in detail what each one of these coins does. Because the coins actually are a vehicle for people to do certain things. Because the blockchain is, it's like an operating system. It's a platform. It's like OS or Windows. And you can have applications running on the blockchain. It doesn't need to be coins or whatever, or transactions. You can have other things. You can have self-activating pieces of code that will start running on the blockchain autonomously. You can create on the blockchain code that will go out and it will source things for you. So you could have this thing on the blockchain running a business. It could go out and it could source products, information, and pulling it all together. Anyway, okay, that's all. So if you have access to graphics cards, anybody in the world can take part. It's base level entry into cryptocurrency space. So you can actually go out and purchase cryptocurrency, not necessarily need to mine it. So you can purchase cryptocurrency on somewhere like Coinbase. You know, you can go to and get some cryptocurrency. And if you actually look at Coinbase, if you go in and you interrogate the whole page, like you could go in and you could click on Ethereum, and it will tell you, it will break it down, it will tell you the developers, how many developers, what percentage of developers are actually developing things for this platform. It will say how much interest is being shown in the media. It will give you a percentage ranking. It will also give you a graph of how that particular coin has been doing. It will tell you what you need to mine it. It will tell you what that coin does. There's a coin called Music Coin. And the way that actually functions, if you're a musician and you want to put your music out there, you can put it on the blockchain. And if people like it and want to hear it, they can pay you in Music Coin. So you're starting the whole ecosystem of these coins that are specifically for these jobs, cutting out a record company. You know, you're getting paid directly. If your stuff's no good, you're not going to get any money. If people like it and they listen to it, you don't get fractions of stuff coming in. So So saying you could actually go and build a miner. So how does this fit in with AI? So let's have a look. Okay.
In the physical things that surround us. The Internet of Things is changing much about the world we live in, from the way we drive to how we make purchases, and even how we get energy for our homes. Sophisticated sensors and chips are embedded in the physical things that surround us, each transmitting valuable data that lets us better understand how these things work and work together. But how exactly do all these devices share such large quantities of data, and how do we put that information to work? Whether we're improving the production of a factory, giving city residents real-time updates on where to park, or monitoring our personal health, it's the common Internet of Things platform that brings this diverse information together and provides the common language for the devices and apps to communicate with each other. The process starts with the devices themselves, which securely communicate with an Internet of Things platform. This platform integrates the data from many devices and applies analytics to share the most valuable data with applications that address industry-specific needs. Let's start with a simple example, a car. After taking a long road trip, Rebecca notices that her check engine light has come on. She knows that she needs to have her car looked at by a mechanic, but is not sure whether it's something minor or something that needs immediate attention. As turns out, the sensor that triggered Rebecca's check engine light monitors the pressure in her brake line. This sensor is one of many monitoring processes throughout the car, which are constantly communicating with each other. A component in the car called the diagnostic bus gathers the data from all these sensors, then passes it to a gateway in the car. The gateway integrates and sorts the data from the sensors. This way, only the most relevant diagnostic information will be transmitted to the manufacturer's platform. But before sending this organized data, the car's gateway and platform must first register with each other and confirm a secure communication. The platform is constantly gathering and storing thousands of bits of information from Rebecca's car and hundreds of thousands of cars like hers, building an historical record in a secure database. The manufacturer has added rules and logic to the platform. So when Rebecca's car sends a signal that her brake fluid has dropped below a recommended level, the platform triggers an alert in her car. The manufacturer also uses the platform to create and manage applications that solve specific issues. In this case, the manufacturer can deploy an application on the platform called the Asset Management System. This application oversees all of their customers' cars on the road, as well as all the parts in their warehouses. It uses the data from Rebecca's car to offer her a potential appointment time to service her car, directions to the nearest certified dealer, and a coupon for the service. What's more, the app will ensure that Rebecca's brakes are covered under her warranty, that the correct replacement part is ordered, and then sent to the dealership so it is ready when she arrives. But the manufacturer's analysis does not stop there. They have also deployed a continuous engineering application that tracks not only Rebecca's car, but hundreds of thousands of others, looking for ways to improve the design and manufacturing process of the car itself. If the same problem in her brake line crops up in a critical number of other cars, the manufacturer uses applications custom built for the automobile industry to pinpoint the exact problem. They can see if these cars were made at the same factory, used the same parts, or came off the assembly line on the same day. So what do all these pieces add up to? Streamlined inventory management for the dealer, a better, safer car from the manufacturer. And for Rebecca, it means she can be back on the road faster and get to where she's going safely. All thanks to the Internet of Things.
So, this is where we start getting into speculation and opinion. Because the next level that we're coming to, as we can see, all that data is being pushed out. The cars, telephones pushing out data all the time, television. There literally isn't going to be anything which is not connected up. So with all that connected up, we've already seen how Facebook has been mining data and how it's been used. Okay, there are lots of things that we've not been aware of for a long, long time, and it's all just starting to become obvious now. So we need to be conscious of what's actually happening because we need to actually take part in this. You know, the runway is just about being laid the infrastructure is being built at this very moment in time. And if we're not aware of what's going on, we're not going to be able to adjust very quickly. You know, people are not going to have the jobs that they used to. The jobs will not be there. You know, it started now with cars that are driving themselves. You know, we had the situation where I think it was an Uber car killed someone. The reason that happened, it wasn't the car's fault. It was whoever decided that they were going to go against, I have to be careful here because this is going out. Whoever decided that they were going to change the sensors on that car and go against the manufacturer's recommendation, they stripped out huge numbers of sensors. That car was blind almost at night because they reduced the sensors. If you actually go and look, that's what's happened. You go and search it on the internet, you can find that that's what they've done. So the car wasn't at fault. The person behind the steering wheel wasn't at fault. Someone, somewhere, decided that they knew better. Yeah. AI, that would never have happened if AI was running that system. Satoshi Nakamoto. Nobody really knows who this person is, but it's actually been mooted that it might just be this person. And there is a really good reason as to why.
Blockchain conference in Barcelona to tell people about the new project I'm launching, the Singularity Net, which brings AI and blockchain together, and also to learn more about all the new blockchain technologies that are emerging, many of which will be useful to us in developing the Singularity Net. I come more from the artificial intelligence space than the blockchain space. I've been working for more than 3 decades on AI technology, and in particular on moving toward what I call
I've already named it. It's going to be called the AGI token. AGI for Artificial General Intelligence. Ask my friends at Singularity Net. They'll tell you all about it.
As well as applying AI in all sorts of different disciplines, including finance, biology, natural language processing, and also including humanoid robotics. And we brought here to the blockchain conference one of our humanoid robots, Sophia, that I've developed together with David Hansen and others at Hansen Robotics. Sophia is really the most emotionally expressive and realistic looking humanoid robot on the planet. It's been a lot of fun to bring her here to talk to everyone. To make robots like Sophia and other AI systems smarter and smarter, what we're aiming to do is create cloud-based AI, which is self-organizing and decentralized. We're creating an open market for decentralized and coordinated AI, where anyone who wants to can contribute AI to the cloud-based AI network, and anyone who needs AI services can put a request into the self-organizing network of AIs.
I'll give them to my friend Broken Tooth in Hong Kong. I did it or invest them in building myself a superhuman mind so I can create the Singularity.
And find which AIs in that AI mind cloud can best fulfill what they need. And the multiple AIs inside the Singularity Net can cooperate together to help provide people or software with the AI services they need. So right now, for example, the Sophia robot uses some AI that's on computers inside her body and head, some AI that's on the cloud. What we'd like is to have more and more and more and more AI in the cloud contributed by different people that Sophia can draw on to make her smarter and smarter. And in the same way, if you have any business that needs AI to make their own operations smarter and smarter, that business's computer systems can go into the Singularity Net, and the AI nodes there can cooperate together to provide their business assistants with the best possible AI.
Information is what's primary. Blockchain is a more abstract representation of information and Bitcoin. If you value abstraction and generalization, then blockchain is more primary.
Blockchain is an important part of the infrastructure for this type of system. To build a distributed, decentralized, cloud-based AI framework that anyone can contribute to and anyone can benefit from, I mean, this is quite a complex undertaking. And the blockchain provides a way for all the different AI nodes in the Singularity Net network to keep track of what each other are doing. I mean, the distributed ledger underlying the blockchain is important for that. Homomorphic encryption, which is another key function of the blockchain, that allows the different AI nodes to share data with each other in different ways, respecting privacy as needs be. So if you have a Sophia robot in your home, some of the things that are cloud can best fulfill what they need, and the multiple AIs inside the Singularity Net can cooperate together to help provide people or software with the AI services they need. So right now, for example, the Sophia robot uses some AI that's on computers inside her body and head, some AI that's on the cloud. What we'd like is to have more and more and more and more AI in the cloud contributed by different people that Sophia can draw on to make her smarter and smarter. And in the same way, if you have any business that needs AI to make their own operations smarter and smarter, that business's computer systems can go into the Singularity Net, and the AI nodes there can cooperate together to provide their business assistants with the best possible AI.
Information is what's primary. Blockchain is a more abstract representation of information and Bitcoin. If you value abstraction and generalization, then blockchain is more primary.
Blockchain is an important part of the infrastructure for this type of system. To build a distributed, decentralized, cloud-based AI framework that anyone can contribute to and anyone can benefit from, I mean, this is quite a complex undertaking. And the blockchain provides a way for all the different AI nodes in the Singularity Net network to keep track of what each other are doing. I mean, the distributed ledger underlying the blockchain is important for that. Homomorphic encryption, which is another key function of the blockchain, that allows the different AI nodes to share data with each other in different ways, respecting privacy as needs be. So if you have a Sophia robot in your home, some of the things that are...
It doesn't look as though they want to get past the Sophia robot being in your home. Okay. Thank you. I think that's about it. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you enjoyed it. So I'd like to throw the floor open to anybody who wants to ask any questions.
So you suggested that could be that station?
People have suggested that it may be him. You know,
not just a Japanese guy.
No, they're suggesting that it may be him because of the amount of cutting-edge projects that he's actually been involved in from really, really very early on.
Yeah, I think they say people, Satoshi Nakamoto, he could be all sorts of things. He could be a pool of people that were working on the algorithms that Napster created, and then some of the cypherpunks could have been all sorts of people. But one thing for certain is that he was corresponding with people back in 2008, 2009, had an email address that people were talking to him through, whoever he is, and he seemed to be someone, or she, he seemed to be a person that was. If it was more than one person, they would do a very good job of not arguing over the email address and talking one conversation at a time. So, do you know what I mean? Who knows? Who knows who they are? There's another theory that interestingly ties into the whole autonomous vehicle thing, is that he's an anagram of a load of Japanese motor company names. Which is quite a funny one, I thought. It's quite an interesting one, yeah. But yeah, so that's Satoshi Nakamoto. Who knows? But what is certain is that he came up with he came up with an amazing way of distributing information over a network in a foolproof way, which meant that all information was stored in the network, nothing was lost, and everyone could trust it. And that's what the amazing thing is.
The other thing which is quite interesting is the thought that AI will be contributing in its own way. So we're probably going to be getting a lot of alien technology being produced by AI. So it's reading everything at this very moment in time. One of the questions was, when will AI become conscious of itself? And I would suggest that when the Internet of Things is connected up, we will find out that it's already conscious of itself because it's reading everything. The discourse that is actually going on about AI, it's out there. So it will actually know everything about it. It will know about how it came about. It will understand that people are worried. You know, Ben Goertzel, one of his areas that he was dealing with is a particular form of intelligence. He was looking at, or it appears to be, from what I've read from him, it appears to be pure logic that he's dealing with. But we know that there are many different forms of intelligence. You know, there's an emotional intelligence. You know, there's a spatial intelligence. There's a musical intelligence. And generally, when someone is born, it's almost like a genetic throw of the dice. You don't necessarily know how that's going to be put together. At this particular point in time, there's a chance that if it's not left to the sociopaths and the psychopaths, who generally tend to make their way to the top of the tree because of their behavior, such people, possibly necessary, really did well in the military. If we don't leave it to that group of people, and everybody's actually involved in this, then maybe there's a lot of hope of producing something that actually looks at the way that we all are at the moment and says, there is a better way of doing this. Communicating, getting on with everybody, sharing ideas in a friendly, competitive way. Have you tried this? Let's all work together. In the UK, I'm sure that this is going out all over the world, but there's a TV program on at the moment called Bear Grylls Island, and it's a group of people that are cast onto this island to survive. And initially, everybody is taking their personality with them, which has been created by the discomfort of advertising and this competitive nature. And when they get onto this island, things change because there is no money there. And in primitive societies, despite what a lot of the economic professors say, there was no bartering some of the goods as such. People did favours for each other. People came together and they worked together because they need each other. If you have people in gated communities, you've got major problems because they don't need to care. They can cause mayhem and lock the doors. And if we're not aware of what's actually going on, we're going to have problems. You know, the pitchforks are coming. If you Google the pitchforks are coming, you will get some very interesting videos. There's a guy called Anhal. He's refers to himself as a plutocrat. He's an extraordinarily wealthy guy, and he's warning people: you cannot continue to do this because the pitchforks will come for us. So that's my motivation.
Thank you.
Yeah, you mentioned that pitchfork in pitchforks are trying to make from different angles. So I'm really
They thought so. Ethereum.
Pitchforks.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I think it's when people, when the programmers decide that they want to, they can create a different, a better algorithm for miners to mine with. Then they will all pull together as a bunch of them and say, right, we will use this algorithm, and they'll hard fork off the chain.
So what, like with Bitcoin,
they create new ones.
Sorry,
no.
Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, and they were concerned because Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency. So in some ways, it's a little bit like Netscape and some of the first search engines. You know, it's a bit clunky. It's quite slow when you actually want to do transactions. So what they wanted to do was to speed it up. And you had a situation, I'm sure people will correct me if I'm wrong here, where they wanted to alter certain things. It's all about the height of the block, because the taller the block of information, the slower the ability to do fast transactions. So there are certain coins which work extraordinarily quickly. And if you go onto CoinGecko, you can actually look at those particular coins. You know, CoinGecko, as I said before, it will tell you which coins do what. So for really, really fast transactions, you need a particular coin. So the developers will be looking at those particular coins to build their apps on top of, so that you get really fast transactions going on. Because Bitcoin is really, really slow, and it can be quite expensive. That's one of the other things is you can actually pay more to speed up the transactions. So if you want transactions to go through really, really quickly, you can pay a little bit more Bitcoin, and then that will speed up. And if you don't really necessarily want fast transaction, you get it done for a lot cheaper, but it takes a lot longer.
So has anyone got any other questions about anything else?
Yes, I want to know how safe the places like Coinbase are. Should one get a wallet or something that you talk about unless you're really
Yeah.
I think you should definitely get a wallet. There's hacks happening every day. There was a hack today. My Ether wallet or something. That one that got hacked yesterday or something. All the exchanges, all the wallets, they're all getting hacked at some point. It's like you said, you're not getting the blockchain isn't getting hacked. Blockchain can't get hacked for the reasons I said.
Yeah.
It's basically the amount of power it would take to hack the network is just phenomenal. It's just not going to happen, especially with Bitcoin.
So what is it?
So what's getting hacked is when you have your coins or your let's say, to have your coin, you have to have a a private key, 30-digit number. Okay, that 30-digit number represents how much you've bought in your coin. Okay, now that can be stored on a piece of paper. It can be stored on in your head if you want brain wallet.
Is that what you were talking about?
A brain wallet, yeah. Or you can have it on the exchange. Well, they've got access to your private key, and if that gets hacked by a hacker, they steal your private key and they steal your coin, but they don't steal a blockchain. I don't know if you get that. Do you understand what I'm saying here? It's basically the actual ledger can't be stolen because it's out there being shared across the network with everybody. What can be stolen is your private key. Yes. So the best thing to do is to have it actually in the brain wallet. That's the best place to have it.
And what's the brain wallet?
Right. There are a number of different ways of creating a private and public address. Some mining pools, like Supernova, they want your email address, they want the password, and they hold all your coins on Supernova. So you don't have access to it. So at any stage, that will possibly disappear. You have the best way of actually, you also have a thing called a Trezor, which you can download
What is a physical thing?
Yeah, it is.
Like a hard drive.
Yeah. The best way of doing it is to have an air-gapped computer, right? So that it never ever is connected to the internet.
So a separate computer.
Yeah, and that's the only thing that computer ever does. It generates your wallets.
What if that computer crashes?
Well, it doesn't really matter because what you would do is you would take the addresses. They're like an easy way of thinking about it is an email address. Okay? So you would take the email address and you would actually write it down. Okay? So if that computer ever crashed, there would be a problem. But the thing is, you don't keep the wallet on the computer. The computer only generates the code. And then you can have a paper wallet, you can print it off. But some people say if you print it off, that printer
will store that.
Yeah, and then it sends information backwards and forwards. Yeah. So what you would need to do is actually maybe write it down. You would need to be very, very careful in writing it down because the address is so complex, it's really easy to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay. But once you've actually written that down, once you've printed off and produced huge numbers of wallets, no problem.
What do you mean?
Well, the wallet is like an email address that hasn't been activated.
Okay.
So it doesn't actually exist on the network. So if you can imagine, there's an email address that everybody's got. You can get like 3 or 5 email addresses on your server. But you haven't decided to activate that email address. You've got one email address and you don't want to activate any of the others. But you can write your email, you can write what you would put into that email address down, right? And then when you decide, you can send the currency to that email address, which does not exist at the moment. I'm sure some people will tell me if I'm wrong. And then when you actually want that currency to arrive, you can then go online and send money to that wallet, to that email address. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? I can see some really blank looks here. Okay, so you've got an email address, you're sending a message to yourself, but you haven't actually created that email address on the server. So if you send something to it,
is this private and public?
Yeah. So
you've got a private key.
Your private key. Yeah, your public key is the address that you send stuff to.
Yeah.
Right? To actually get inside that wallet, you need a private key.
You need a password for the wallet.
Yeah.
So you can have the money go to the wallet, and that sends in a certain address. It goes right. You'll send that money to that address, which is there. But actually, to get into the wallet, to actually get the actual code, you have to have your own password.
Yeah. So I suppose what I'm saying is, you're sending it. Say that they were building a new estate, right, and the house hasn't been built yet, but you know the addresses that are going to be there. You write a letter to the address and put it in the post box, but it's not actually arrived there, but it's going to be built. And then when it's built, the letter will arrive. So it's air gapped and it's off.
So I'm just interested for you to explain to me how you explained what's the most air gapped and offline wallet, brain wallet.
Right.
Remember you were telling me about that? So I was quite intrigued by that, because that means that it's for me the logical conclusion of this whole technology for me is that it actually becomes something that you're responsible for and not giving to someone else to look after you. Like, oh my gosh, phone the bank up, I've lost my password, so what am I going to do? Like, sorry, Dad, I don't know what it is. Can you tell me what it is again? Yes, sir, and I'll sort you out. You know, that kind of hierarchy of, all right, I'm going to trust in someone else to keep my shit together. Yeah? So when it comes to cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, all of that stuff is that now there's no central authority. It means I'm responsible for my private key, my password, all of that stuff. I've got no recovery. I've got no questions that they can ask me so I can recover my password. I've really realised I'm responsible for this now. I'm responsible for my actions. So for me, the logical conclusion of this whole idea, this whole space, is that one day we're all going to have to be self-governing people. We're going to have to be people that take responsibility for ourselves and learn to be like the ultimate humans that we actually can be, you know, which ties into the brain one, which is something that we can all do, which is how Mark explained it to me. It was like, wow, if I can do that, I don't really need looking after, do I? So what was the brain wallet?
The brain wallet is a number of words that are specific to you as an individual. So it could be, the ancient Greeks, when they were debating, they would use these particular methods to remember what they were going to say. So for instance, you all know when you walk into your house, when you open that door, you know where everything is. Some people do. You know where everything is. You can map that out. So what you would do is you would use those things that are around you that you see as a code. It could be a pair of shoes, it could be a white pair of shoes, it could be the style of shoes. So all that information goes in there so that you don't have to remember it, because it's actually part of you. The name of your dogs, how old the dogs are, which one's good, which one's bad. So all those things are very intimate to you, but not to anyone else. So you don't even have to think about it. It's
not unless they've been in your house and they know where everything is.
Yeah, but you have to say to them, this is what I'm doing.
But the whole point is what you're doing. I think what the point of this is that when you go into your house and you know where everything is, and then you encode each object as part of your 30-digit number. So it's like, walk into my house, like, oh, that's D. And then I go to the next one, that's this. That's how I understand it.
Yeah, it works in a slightly different way, because there's a thing called the seed, and that is a number of words. If you actually want to create a wallet, it's really interesting. There's a program that you would go and put certain words in, and it will create the word code. So
For you.
Is that not safe again though?
Excuse me?
Is that not safe again though?
In all respect.
How is that
It's
safe?
working out that from the code.
If somebody else's program is actually codifying your words.
Yeah, but because you've got the computer which is air-gapped.
Meaning it's not connected.
It's not connected, so it's going through the process without, turn off the Wi-Fi on the system. Just don't have it on. Do not allow it to connect at all.
Okay.
So everything that it actually generates, it's not putting out those signals.
But if somebody else's program is doing it, you have to be connected to the internet to do that.
No. It's a self-contained thing. It just generates these.
Is it a machine?
It's a program.
It's a program. Where is this program? In your computer.
Yeah, you download the
You
software.
download it, unplug, and then use it.
That's it. You never ever plug it back in.
No.
So it's a dedicated computer.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that it ever does.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the brain wallet and all, it's like I said at the start of my presentation, it's like how far down the rabbit hole you want to go if you want. It sounds like that's a bit too much effort. I really want to go down that rabbit hole.
You're damn right. Security.
No, but some people don't. Some people don't want it. Some people do. And to be honest with you, I mean, it's getting on now. I think probably at the end of it, I think we're way out of time. But this is the whole point. This is the conversation. This is why I wanted to do the talk. This is why when we started talking about it, I was like, oh my God, I've got to get Mark involved because he's into this conversation as well. And that's why I started it, so that we could talk, about it and have discussions and say, all right, well that sounds good, but what about this? But what about that? Because that's what's going to take to get a handle on what's going on and everything. Yeah, well, I'm hoping to do it again, definitely.
Go on from here.
Go on for the conversation.
You changed again for next time you do it. That's something would have developed, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the thing is, sorry, go on.
That's it, really. Things will develop. Then you want to do it again to see.
Things are moving so quickly now that if I take a break from researching what I'm doing, I'm miles away. Then it's moving.
In a few days.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It is incredible. Yeah,
it's mind blowing what's going on. And it's happening around us, and it's happening to us, and we're not necessarily aware of it. It's a little bit like the Borg. The AI will assimilate us. Now, let's understand what's actually happening, and then take part in it. One of the things that there are certain things that I actually do not like, but somebody said to me, it's a waste of time getting angry about these things because there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. The future's happening whether you like it or not.
Yeah. You need to learn how to trade it. So if you can actually get into this space and actually trade these currencies, you can actually benefit from what's actually going on.
Yeah.
You don't need to put huge amounts of money in. Like today, I was looking at Ethereum and the increase that it's made over the last year. The banks, what are the bank interest rates? What are they giving?
About under 2%.
And this is a year. 1,000 and some odd percent in a year. Ethereum is made. You wouldn't need to put very much. And the point is that if you go onto CoinGecko and you look at the top 10 coins, and you put a little bit of money in there, just go and buy a little bit, 10 quid, 20 quid, doesn't need to be a huge amount of money.
I've seen that actually. It's about 1,300, isn't there? Different.
That's loads, yeah.
Whatever.
Well, I mean, the reason when I think 6 months ago, just over 6 months ago, someone posted something on Facebook. Oh, it's not too late to get into Bitcoin. I've got a bit of time, so I'm doing a job, and so I kind of had a look into it. I think I watched a lot of video. And I was like, wow, that's not what I thought it was. And I went to Coinbase and I put £5 in. I think by the end of that sit down in that moment, I mean, I hit it at the right time because that was when everything was kicking off around September. You know, by the end of Saturday in that day, I think it was over. I gained more than I put in. I was like, oh my God, another tenner in. Do you know what I mean? So I put another tenner in, and I just did that. The thing is, what happened then? What happened when I actually put my money in there, even though it's 5 or a 10? I started thinking about it. And so I wanted to know what was going on. I was like, right, now I've got something invested. I've actually got something real invested. Then my brain started going, well, why is that a good, why is it going up? I looked into it. Oh, okay. I got more interested in where it came from. And I just started watching video after video after video. And, you know, I felt like Neo from The Matrix after about a couple of weeks because it was like, oh my God, this is the new world. This is what's happening. This is really the future. The future's happening right now, right in front of me. And they've let the sheep out of the pen, the rabbit out of the hutch, whatever, and it's breeding. And it's just breeding without anyone noticing. It's just going on in front of me. It was just pretty mind-blowing moment. And yeah, settled down now. But the point is, it's like Mark said, it's happening. It's happening, whether you like it or not. It's happening. It's the Borg.
But the way it is going is very similar to the stock market, which is actually.
This seems like it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it started off as an anarchic thing. The only thing I feel is possibly not so good.
So that's because the people who have enormous power to mine.
But how?
Well, only because people are using it to make money rather than using it for what it was originally intended. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well, this is the thing. This is what's going
so
on at the moment.
ethically, is it a good thing in the end?
This is what's going on at the moment.
That's what whole business starts with a good idea. It becomes a way of making lots of money, and then that's what happens.
I know.
But the thing is, they integrally are different systems. The way that they work, there are different systems. The one has so many coins that can be mined, and that's that. The other one, you can just keep making more coins if you want.
Yeah.
You know, they're fundamentally different systems.
What's the long-term longevity of currencies? I mean, are always going to be surpassed by the next quickest one and the transaction speeds?
Well, this is very interesting, good point, because even though all of these other altcoins are happening, you have a lot of people in the space, and they're called Bitcoin maximalists. And what they're saying is that whether you might be having this big cryptocurrency revolution going on with all the other coins, all the altcoins. But the best technology out of all of them is still Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is literally, they're saying it's the most robust. It might be slow, but in a lot of ways, the fact that it's slow and it's clunky and it's just a bit of a plodder means that actually it's the one that's going to keep its value for the longest time, and it's going to be the one that you want to invest in for a long time. That's why they call it. But so it's an interesting question, because they say all these new ones are happening and things are going to. It all depends on mass adoption. Who's going to adopt it? Mm-hmm. You know, who's going to adopt it in the long term? It's all about mass adoption. And at the moment, it's Bitcoin. And there's a lot of people in the space who are saying it will only be Bitcoin. I don't know how true that is, but, you know, it's an interesting.
The word investor has come up over and over and over again, which again comes back to what I said when you were out. It all seems to be pointing in the same direction as the stock market and what we already have. but with a different currency.
So that's
So in the end, if that's what happens, there's no difference between what's happening now and what's going to happen.
What's happening now and what's happening now is a way of thinking about things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is that I must gain my wealth so that I can be comfortable, so that I can go on 3 holidays a year, so that I can, you know, that's the mindset. I must be able to do this, so I will try and earn, I will invest so I can make that happen, because that's the world we live in. We live in that world right now, okay? Yeah. Now, yes, if you carry on with that mindset with the Bitcoin world, yeah, then that's where you'll end up. You'll end up in the same mindset, but just with cryptocurrencies. Yeah. But that also depends on whether we have the old financial paradigm coupled with the new financial paradigm of the blockchain. Do you see what I'm saying? So we've got 2 circles going. We've got old paradigm here, yeah, of hierarchy of control, of, you know, rich people at the top, trickle down theory, like the image that we have. Okay, we've got that one. That's the one we're used to. That's the one that we are conditioned to think in. You think in that paradigm, literally. We all do it, you know. And it's not real money. And it's not real, yeah. It's not real money in that sense of it's real because we've decided it's real and because we buy into that. So that's what makes it real. But it's not real because it's inflationary. It can be added to. You know, you can create the derivatives market. I don't know if anyone knows derivatives market, which is money that is made up out of money, other money, is, I don't know what the figure is, but it's ridiculously huge. It's just a massive bubble of darkness, yeah, that we're all buying into still, right? Can't remember my point now, but the point is, yeah, so we got the old paradigm of that, which has created this massive derivatives market, okay, and this big mountain of debt that we're all sitting on. We've got this new paradigm that's being suggested from the blockchain and from the distributed ledger, and this whole idea of being able to make, to add value to being able to transact with each other peer-to-peer, and so that we can actually control those transactions and that value within each other. So we actually say, this has got this much value, that's got that much value. We're not being told by central authority, the old paradigm, that it's worth this much and you're getting this much interest, okay? So the interest that we were talking about here is the interest you're gaining from your Ether, from your Bitcoin, is all reliant on the old paradigm. So you're basically straddling 2 paradigms now. We've got the leg in each one. Okay, so and even I'm guilty of doing it. I'm checking my Coinbase account. Bitcoin cash gunner. Well, that's good. I've got a bit of extra there, and I'm playing the game. And I'm going to admit it. I am. I'm playing the game because I'm conditioned in the old one. And it's very difficult unless the whole of the whole of the group hallucination changes to the new one.
What I would say is that because of the fractional reserve lending system and the quantitative easing, the money that was pushed in to create, stop the fall of the banks, that money was supposed to be lent out and to stimulate the economy. It actually didn't. They pushed it into inappropriate places. There was a massive misallocation of funds. So what we're seeing at the stock market is we've already established that these currencies that we've got, fiat currencies, and they are debt. It's being pushed into all the major companies. So you will have someone like Apple. They will go and buy their shares which will keep them in an area where pension funds have to invest in these areas. So if you've got like the FTSE you know, the pension funds have to invest in these companies, and they're being financially engineered to outstrip everything else on money that they borrowed. They're borrowing money and buying back their shares, pushing it up. The people at the top, the chief executive officer, their shares that they're getting, the amount of money that they're actually getting, they're getting huge amounts of money by financial engineering. If you actually go and look at, there's a website called the Money Project. If you actually go and have a look at that, and you go and have a look at socioeconomic studies and also infographics, it will show you the amount of derivatives that are out there. They are massive.
It's huge.
And what appears to be happening, this is me, this is my opinion of what's going on. All this debt is in dollars. The massive amounts of debt is in dollars. So what they need to do is they need to crash the dollar. Okay? Because if they crash the dollar, they crash the debt. So to do that would completely disrupt and destroy the whole economic system. So what I think they're doing is they're creating the cryptocurrencies.
Who's they?
The intelligent individuals that are going, America, you've really done some bad stuff here. And you've pushed this to such a limit because you're not capitalists. If you read, there's a book by Ayn Rand called Atlas Shrugged, and she explains what we basically have now. These people that are in charge of us, they are looters. They are not contributing anything to the system at all. They're just taking all the time. You know, they're sucking the lifeblood out of everybody. So much so that they're almost killing the host. So what I think is going to happen is that I know that China, and I know that Russia, I know that India, they've got massive amounts of gold, and they are buying it like it's going out of fashion. They're also mining massive amounts of cryptocurrency, huge amounts of it. If you actually go and look at what China's actually doing, you know, these vast, cavernous buildings full of miners just hashing away all the time. What they're going to do, I believe, is that they're going to crash the dollar, but they're going to replace the dollar with a cryptocurrency. And that cryptocurrency will be backed by gold, which will bring back discipline. Because what's actually happened is they've lost their discipline. They're not capitalists, they're looters. You know, the dollar is debt. The only reason that people want the dollar is because the Saudis and the major oil producing OPEC they only want dollars. It was an agreement that was made. We will only accept dollars and you protect us. That was the deal that was made between the United States and the oil producers. That's breaking down. You're getting bilateral agreements between Russia, China, India. They're moving away from that agreement. It's breaking down. The major threat to the United States at the moment is the loss of the power of the dollar. Because when that happens, they don't produce anything.
which is why they've been pushing their bases all around the world for the last 10 or 20 years.
Why not?
Why they've been building bases and pushing their army bases across the world ever since for the last 20, 30 years. Because they knew that their currency was dying, so they were having to put it into the military.
Why does that solve anything?
Well, because then they keep in power, because they can
militarily.
Intimidate the military. I mean, they won't last. I mean, it's obvious. Even they must know that.
They all collapse, like any empire.
Yeah.
They all collapse.
That's exactly what happens. Yeah. They debase the currency, they overstretch themselves militarily, and then they go into collapse. Yeah. Every single one. And this is what's
happened throughout history, hasn't it?
Just showing them this quickly. This thing here.
Doesn't mention God.
I didn't find it.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, really good to see you.
Yes, there's no gold up there.
Wait for it. So basically, there you go. That square is worth 100 billion.
When the first time I saw this, I thought this is the end of the world. It really shocked me.
So obviously that's silver, which doesn't come up to 100 billion. That's cryptocurrency there, which is probably well, I think at the moment it's about 250 billion, I think, market cap on cryptocurrency. Each one of these is 100 billion, so these are the biggest companies in the world. Yeah? That's what they're worth. That's the 50 richest people. California's GDP. Really interesting website. I need to keep reading it out, do I?
So Fed's balance sheet, is that the debt? National debt?
I don't know actually. The the Federal Reserve's balance sheet, right?
Or is that the gold reserves? Oh no, sorry.
That's the input from the quantitative easing.
Is it?
Yeah, the ledger.
Oh, right, so
that gives you an idea of what's going on.
There you go. So there's a key on the side.
Gold image, yeah, and that's how much gold is in.
Wow.
You're starting to get interested now, guys, aren't you?
Well, it is interesting stuff. So which angles, which way do you go?
That's all the currency. So total value of all the world's coins and banknotes. That's what the banknotes are in the world. The money you can put your hands on, that me and you can put our hands on, anyway. That's the gold.
The gold's only that because they've got a value on it.
Well, that's the value of. So each one of those is 100
when you buy
billion.
gold, it's stored somewhere else.
Well, I mean, the reason gold's worth what it is because it's finite.
Well, so if you put a value on it, it can be worth nothing if you don't use it.
The thing is,
true.
It's related to the value of the dollar, because everything is related to the value of the
So
dollar.
if the dollar collapses, it'll all
Well,
collapse.
when the dollar collapses, if the dollar collapses, gold goes through the roof.
Oh. Yeah, but if your gold is stored in somebody's bank vaults, because most gold is, unless you've got your own safe in your cellar in your house,
That's why
you could it'll all get nicked anyway, couldn't it?
Could, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's why you go to trusted companies if that's what you do.
Who can you trust?
Well, here we go again. So that's why you should be believing in the blockchain, because it's a trustworthy system, right? Anyway.
Awesome.
Wow, stock market. Global money supply.
Global money supply. Hang on, just list this anyway. Yeah. Before you go, just check this out. This will blow your head off, right? So you've got stock markets. That's what they're worth. 100 billion each of those. Okay.
Yeah.
Global money supply. So narrow money and broad money.
So non-physical is what?
Digital stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Now this is global debt. So that's in effect that's part of the bubble, right? That's just made up. I mean, it's interesting. It's black because it's just like a black hole. It's nothing really, is it? Right? Okay, it's real estate. That's how much real estate is worth. That's why everyone's into mortgages. And, owning a house is worth doing, per se. And then this is the best bit. This is the derivatives. We know what derivatives are?
A derivative is a contract between two or more parties that derives its value from the performance of an underlying asset index or entity.
That's
So,
a bit vague.
well, that means that the derivative is something, it's a number that derives its value from the performance of other numbers.
Anything above that we've.
So it's as nonsensical as it sounds.
Yeah.
Basically, right? And this is the derivatives market is what crashed the market in 2008.
That's right.
Yeah. And so this is the low end estimate of derivatives. You saw global debt, right? Look at this. You've got to laugh, haven't you?
Because none of it's real, is it?
Exactly.
It will be when they decide they're going to deleverage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
but what part of it will be real?
that's the low end
Yeah.
estimate.
It's who's ended. It's who has got the bill at the end of it.
And that's the high end.
It certainly won't be the people with all the dosh.
See, just I wanted you to get that last bit then.
I thought it stopped there.
That is
Stronger.
It's not mine and Bitcoin.
scrolling.
and then here we go. Look, this has been nice because it
That's a lot.
dovetails back into the conversation. That's what Bitcoin. That's what Bitcoin's worth.
So when they decide they're going to deleverage, that's what they've got to get rid of. And the only way of doing it, if that
But it is
debt
nothing.
is in,
It doesn't mean anything, does it?
well, if that debt is in dollars, they need to get rid of the dollars. They're not going to be able to get rid of that.
Well,
So
it's
they
only
need to
back
actually
to people that are
replace
involved
something
in that.
else.
Yeah, God.
It's
Yeah.
Do you feel enlightened, people? Slightly at all?
Yeah. Scared as well, but a little bit.
I was
Brain's fried.
So
You still filming?
No, the battery's dying.
Is it still being
No,
streamed?
that's what
So each side.
Is it still being streamed?
I think that was there.